It's a Late Fun Guys podcast. I'm Samir, and I got my co-host Mark.
Oh,
Go Habs, go, Mark. We made the Final Four.
can't believe we're
Playing
here.
Vegas. We've kind of slotted ourselves into the traditional Western Conference. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. The first time we're playing outside of our division. Keep in mind, we played like the Leafs 17 times, and we played the Jets 13 times. This is the first time we're playing Vegas. But it's the Final Four. We're that much closer to the Stanley Cup. And this is a huge, huge deal for everyone back home in Montreal. All Habs fans around the world are super excited about this opportunity. Like you said, and like Bergevin has been saying this entire time, once you get in, you don't know what anything can happen. And that's proven right. So, Mark, end of the day, are the Habs going to the Stanley Cup Finals?
It's a big question. They're going to need a lot of things to go right. It's very clear the Vegas Golden Knights are the favorites in this series. But that's been the same story against Winnipeg and against the Leafs. Habs are able to pull through against the Leafs in 7, beat the Jets in 4. They're going to have their hands full for sure, but it's going to come down to number one, goaltending. Without Carey Price, without him playing at the top level, they have no chance. So they're going to need him to be strong, and they're going to need to take a model out of the Dallas Stars. The Dallas Stars were underdogs in the same spot as the Habs last year, and they beat the Golden Knights in 5. How did they do it? It was through amazing goaltending. Khudobin was sensational, and he kept all those games low scoring. That's exactly what the Canadiens are going to need to do. Vegas has tons of wingers that can score. Pacioretty, of course, will be making his. He'll want to stick it to the Habs and Bergevin.
Former Habs captain, Mark. I think this is a topic in itself. So let's get it out of the way. Let's get it out of the way. He's returning after wearing the C on his jersey for several years. After Brian Giunta left, they had a season off where they had only assistants. Wow. A lot of people wanted PK Subban to get the C. A lot of people wanted Brandon Gallagher to get the C. Max Pacioretty walks out with the C, and then a few years later, he's traded for a package that includes Nick Suzuki, our top offensive centerman, one of the bright spots of our team. I look back, I think this is a win-win for both teams, but it's going to be a very emotionally taxing series for Max Pacioretty.
Oh, for sure. Look, he's going to want to stick it to Bergevin to prove to him, you made a mistake trading me. You should have capped me, or things should have worked out. I mean, Pacioretty was a great player for the Habs, but the captain, the C on his logo was heavy on him. And I'm sure there's things, he could have handled the situation better, but everything worked out. And he's going to want to stick it to them. And same with the Habs. They're going to want to stop him. But at the end of the day, I think they're just going to have to keep him to the outside, smash him. So he won't go inside, keep him to the out, hit him hard. And so he'll be hesitant, stick on the outside. And that's what's going to make it easy for Price. Keep the shots to the outside. He'll make those saves. He's a great goaltender. He's going to limit the rebounds. So that's going to be really key, is get on his ass, hit him hard, and make sure he doesn't get in those prime scoring chances, because we know what can Max Pacioretty do is score goals. So leads to my next point, really, is goals. Habs are going to have to get them. I think the power play is one place where they can. It's their secret weapon right now. There's not a big book on Cole Caulfield and with Gustafsson there. That's really been a success for them. We saw them score some key goals. That's special teams. We can't count on them getting many shorthanded goals again, but that's one place where they can get an edge over the Golden Knights, who've had a sort of not a great power play this year. Third, I mentioned the Stars. Jamie Benn scored a goal every game of the series, except one of them, but he got a point in every game that they won. So who's going to be our Jamie Benn? Who's going to really be that leader? Him and Radulov last year were unbelievable. He pushed them through. Who's that going to be? I think it has to be Josh Anderson. He's that big power forward. He can push through. I think maybe when you look at Nate Schmidt, McNabb, he's someone that they could really exploit. The Habs sort of were on him last January when they're in Montreal, that 5-4 game in overtime. So I think that's maybe someone they can maybe exploit in that top four. But I think Josh Anderson has to come out. He hasn't scored since game one against the Leafs. If he's able to score, be that third line that's able to get some pucks in the net, that's going to be huge for the Habs. So I expect big things from him.
So Mark, the three key points for the series for me are very similar to what I mentioned in the last series against Winnipeg. And the first is special teams, and that covers the power play, that covers shorthanded. Our penalty killing is the best all playoffs. We're number one with a 90% effective rate. That needs to continue. We would also have been fortunate enough to lead the league in shorthanded goals. They need that streak to continue. And then the power play, like you mentioned, has seen some success with when Gustafsson was shifted over to lead sort of or quarterback the power play. I think that's been a good move. And I will say that after watching a lot of the other series, on especially Vegas, Colorado, where Vegas lit up Samuel Girard, a young up and coming prospect in their system. And then you saw that happen across a few other series where young defensemen got burned. I can see why Romanov, they've been a little bit hesitant to keep him in because he could get exploited. And that's one of the things why I think with the fact that the power play is doing so well with Gustafsson, it's good to keep him in. Now there's that injury risk with Petrie. However, if
Petrie's not expected to play game one, I think that's
not. But I think there's a lot of mind games here because he was practicing.
Did you see him in practice though? He wasn't shooting at all. He just had the stick in his hand. He didn't take any shots. So it tells me that there's something wrong with his hand. And like they need him. He's been such a key player. When you look against the Leafs, game 3, game 4, he wasn't good. They didn't play well. He stepped it up. The Habs haven't lost since. So it's going to be a really key. And yeah, Romanov's going to have to step it up.
It's a big loss, but I expect Petrie to be back in this series pretty soon. I think if he's not going to play tonight, they're probably just seeing what Romanov can do and maybe giving him a little bit more rest. But that being said, so special teams needs to be super strong for the Habs.
Yeah.
Second is goaltending. Carey Price has been Vezina level, all world, some would argue. He's got to continue that streak of stopping the puck, making big saves, and getting in the heads of the opponents. He did that against Toronto. He did that against the Jets. He's got to continue to do that against Vegas. And then third, and this is the one that's slightly changed. We talked about youth movement a lot. I think we're starting to see that hold true with Cole Caulfield, Suzuki, KK, and a little bit of Romanov, despite him playing one game. But the system is what's keeping the Habs together. They're all playing on the same page. They're all playing for each other. They're all working equally hard in all situations. And that has led to significant amount of confidence. Now, both teams are coming to this series with a tremendous amount of confidence. They've won big games, very emotional taxing series to beat the Stanley Cup favorites, Colorado Avalanche. Vegas is flying high right now, and they're playing at home in front of 18,000 fans. So the Habs really need to stick to their system, and that's when a guy like Petrie out of the lineup won't get as noticed.
You mentioned stick to the system, and really it's going to be about getting out of their zone. Sound short passes, don't panic, just get it out. That's something that Dallas, when we look back, Vegas was in their zone the whole time, but they kept the shots to the outside. But still, you don't want that to happen. You just want to get the puck out, keep the shots to the outside. They're going to need to block shots. Vegas was number 1 in the NHL in block shots. So Montreal is going to have to match that on that level there.
Really, well, it's going to prove challenging. But across the lineup, Mark, when you compare like the 12 forwards, 6D, and goalies, there's not much of an edge anywhere. I think maybe you could make the argument that Montreal has a little bit more center depth.
For sure. You win the middle, you win the game. And I think the Habs have a legitimate advantage there. Chandler Stevenson on the top line as a center. Habs are good there. The only issue is that Mark Stone, he's almost like a hybrid center because he plays so well defensively, and he's going to be a key player in this series. But you're hoping Danault's line will be able to stop him. But overall, Sanjam, their depth is where the Habs have an advantage here. When you look at that fourth line that's had so much success, it's hard for them to just count on them to get production, but at least give that energy and give that momentum for the other lines. And then plus you got Thomas Tatar, who was in this trade. He probably won't play game one, but he's someone that, you could plug in your lineup and you think he's going to want to shove it to his old team. Jake Evans is supposed to come back.
I don't buy that argument, Mark, because he didn't really play for Vegas. I mean, he was traded at the deadline and he didn't really suit up after that. So I think his former team is someone like really Detroit, but
he got traded as a spare part. You would think he has a certain amount of pride and that if he gets an opportunity, he's going to want to shove it to them. So I don't think he'll start game one, but he's someone you have in your back pocket that you could put.
It has to be a big injury for him to come back. Just like you have Jake Evans waiting. Arturi Lehkonen has been playing amazing.
I agree with you. Jake Evans is probably high in the lineup, but I'm just saying that you have this depth. You have a strong, very strong fourth line. You have a clear edge there, and you have some extra reserves that you could easily slot in. And the rest of the forwards, well, it's just the Vegas has a clear edge in wingers. Marchessault, Pacioretty, Stone, Alex Tuck, those are all legitimate goal scorers. So it's going to be a challenge to contain them. But if they are, I like their chances.
They're all big, heavy scoring wingers that can make plays, that can hit. There's a bunch of Josh Andersons on that team. So I think if you look across like the entire lineup, Mark, the end of the day, like we have an advantage in some areas, they have an advantage in some. I don't think it really equates to anything. So it's really going to come down to like these key things, right? And system, special teams, and goaltending. And if Price can outduel Fleury, then you see maybe Fleury gets lit up, and then they go with Leonard like that. That could be something that either helps Montreal or doesn't, right? Like we've seen in the past many series where they switch goaltenders and then suddenly the team's back alive.
Who's the player that scares you the most on the Knights?
I'd have to say Stone or Marchessault.
I'm going to go with Pietrangelo. This is a guy, Vegas got him in the offseason. They paid the big money. They were up against a cap, so there was only a certain amount they could do. They went for the premium blue chip player. Pietrangelo was unbelievable against the Avs. He propelled them through. He won the cup with the Blues just a couple of seasons ago. Their captain. This guy could really turn the table. I think that you somehow just maybe need him not to be effective or get in his head, but he concerns me the most. I think if there's one guy that could turn this series around, it's him.
He would play for Team Canada if they had an Olympics this year, right? I don't think Shea Weber might have gotten the call for Team Canada anymore. So yeah, Pietrangelo's all worlds. Shea Theodore is excellent. They have really good partners in Martinez and McNabb. Their defense is definitely an asset for them. They're running 6. They're running 6. We're running 4, right? So I think that if you look, like I said, if you look up and down the lineup, it's too tight. It's a 50-50 series, Mark. Anything can happen. Momentum's going to be a huge factor. The fans are going to be a huge factor. Coaching's going to be a huge factor. Matchups are going to be a huge factor. Every little detail is going to count. And I think that's where it comes down. That's what it's going to come down to. So Mark, end of the day, we can debate this till we're blue in the face. Yeah. What's your prediction?
No, I think you're wrong about the 50-50. I think Vegas are heavy favorites. Odds tend to be about like 75 to 80% that they'll win. I mean, they are a more talented team, except the Nets and the fourth line. Apart from that, you have to give the edge to the Knights. But at the end of the day, they play similar style games. You can argue Vegas has more talent, but they both play like a strong forecheck game. But it's going to come down to who wants it more. And I'm going to say the Habs want it more. I think Carey Price, he's been there long enough. Shea Weber, veteran. You have a lot of that fourth line, Eric Stahl, Corey Perry can bring that leadership. And they have young guns like Kokaniemi, Suzuki, Caulfield that don't know any better. And there's going to be some guys like Tyler Toffoli and Ott Anderson in their prime that are sort of been there, done that. And They want another crack at it too. So I think they have a good blend. I'm going to say Habs in 7. They're going to find a way. And hopefully, Samir, you'll get to be at a game.
Yeah. So Mark, I kind of I have the same prediction as you, Habs in 7. I was gonna say Habs in 6, but for a few different reasons. I really think if you take just the playoffs, just this little view that we've had, I don't think they're heavy favorites. Vegas might put them as favorites because they take in a lot of data and probably also who's betting on what, and their hometown favorites. But I think it's a 50-50 series, and it's really going to come down to all the little details and who wants it more, like you said, right? And I feel like the guys on our team, the players who've been there, like the Corey Perrys, Eric Stahl, Armia, Tyler Toffoli, Shea Weber, they've all had such a close chance, right? Even Carey Price, you can make the argument for Carey Price and Brendan Gallagher. They all realize what this means. It's going to be a very tough matchup, but I think the Habs come out on top, and that's mainly because of the fact how well they've been connected as a group. And if I've been talking about this quite extensively throughout the season, right? They've been through ups and downs, big highs, and then huge lows, and these peaks and valleys. And now they're suddenly on this peak at the most important time when they've all kind of come together and figured it all out. And this attitude and this killer instinct has emerged. And we haven't seen that up until the playoffs. So I think everything is out the door, and you got to look at what we recently saw in the last 2 series. And that's where I think Montreal just sneaks by. And that's why it's a 7-game series. But it could be much faster. It just depends on how close the games are. You could have a bunch of 3-2 games where Montreal just comes out on top.
They're going to need that. That's going to be their way. You don't want to go into an arms race with Vegas. At the end of the day, I think the Habs, it's important that they take one game, either game 1 or game 2 on the road, and to plant that seed of doubt in Vegas's head. It'll be important for them. It'll be tough without Petrie, but if they could somehow bring a 1-1 back to the Bell Center, that's all you can ask for, really.
Yeah, I think that's a good start. I mean, if you're aiming to take it 7, they just need to get the timely contribution. They need to shut down the opposing team. They need, one thing that Vegas does really well is they clog in front of the net. They all crowd in front of Fleury and they block all the shots. How are you going to get into the inside? And I noticed that Montreal is really good at getting in on the inside, especially with that 4th line with Perry and Gallagher, and then also you look on the 1st line with Gallagher. These guys are known to get to the net. Even KK, the way he was scoring, was getting into the net in front of the goaltender. They're going to make Fleury's life difficult. You looked at Colorado; they stayed to the outside. Vegas kept them pretty much to the outside, taking shots, and that's why they blocked a bunch of shots. So I think Montreal has some of the flavors that they need to take down such a big talent like Vegas, and I think they can do it.
And it's certainly a good omen to see the Islanders beat the Lightning last night. They're up 1-0 in the series, 2-1. So I think that's hopefully Habs players draw some confidence from that, and we'll see an Islanders Habs Stanley Cup.
That would be very, very no one would have predicted that matchup. No matter who you are, I think that would have probably been 1,000,000 to 1 in Vegas odds. If you look back at the beginning of the season, a Montreal New York Islanders Stanley Cup final. But Tampa is just too strong, Mark. I think this game 1 was, if you watched especially the last 5 minutes, the pressure that Tampa was putting, Islanders goaltending was playing phenomenally well. He kept them in throughout the game. But I think you're going to look overall at the longevity of this series. Tampa's going to come out on top.
I'm going Islanders in 6. I think they figured it out. They had very little penalties, 2 or 3 penalties last night. Limited their offense. I think that they have the right textbook, great goaltending, solid, hard-nosed hockey. I think they'll take the series, and the fact that they stole one on the roll to go back to Long Island, it's going to be tough for the Lightning. So I see them upsetting the Lightning.
It's way too early. I say Tampa comes back and takes this in 6, max 7. you got too much talent on Tampa Bay. And yes, they are lethal on the power play, but they're also lethal 5-on-5, and they're stacked across the board. They're also healthy. So I think for the most part, this Tampa team is just suffered a little setback. You can't predict anything on one game. So I'm sticking with Tampa. I thought they would make the Stanley Cup Finals from the beginning, and I stick by that.
Well, we'll have to see, and look forward to having our post game one comments, pre game two comments tomorrow.
All right. Well, go Habs, go, Mark.
Let's go.